I found the DNA test shoved behind our toaster, and it didn't have my name on it. At first, I thought it was junk mail. Or worse, one of those spammy ancestry kits you get from Instagram ads. But when I saw his name typed under alleged father, my fingers went cold. There was no sender, no return address, just a manila envelope sealed with a single strip of old tape. And the line that stopped my heart. Child Harper Lynn Collins. Not our kid. Not even close. Because I'd never even heard of a Harper in my life. My husband, Dean, is, or maybe was, the kind of man who triple-checks stove knobs before bed. The kind who alphabetizes our spice rack. He'd never leave something this loaded lying around unless he wanted me to see it. But why now? And why her? I should back up. Dean and I had been together 11 years, married for 8. High school sweethearts turned suburban cliches. One kid, Max, 5, a golden doodle, and a Pinterest-perfect kitchen with subway tile he insisted on installing himself. He even remembered anniversaries, at least, until this year. Because this year. He forgot. Like fully and completely blanked. Not even a card. And that would have been forgivable if I hadn't gotten the push notification from Find My Family, the dumb shared location app we downloaded during COVID. Dean arrived at the Fountains townhomes at 6:24 p.m., the exact time we were supposed to be eating overpriced sushi together. I had set the reservation. I'd texted him reminders. But apparently, my husband had better places to be. When I confronted him, he lied without blinking. Oh, I got caught up with a work thing. The app glitches sometimes, you know that. Except I did know the app, and it doesn't glitch. It timestamps everything, down to the damn minute. He tried to distract me with roses the next day. He even let Max stay up late to bake me brownies from scratch, which somehow made me the villain when I didn't instantly forgive him. Still, I let it go. Or I thought I did. Until the DNA test reappeared. Because after I found it the first time, I panicked and shoved it in my nightstand drawer. But 3 days later, it was gone. Replaced. With a different test. This time, it was Max's name on the envelope. And the result? Probability of paternity, 99.999%. Match confirmed. Except I never ordered that test. Dean didn't either. At least, not according to him. So who did? That night, I waited until he fell asleep. I tiptoed to the bathroom, locked the door, and did what any woman with a gut feeling and a half-charged phone would do. I snooped. First his email. Nothing. Then his text messages, just boring threads with coworkers, a couple of spammy group chats from his fantasy league. I was about to give up when I opened notes. And that's when I saw it. Harper Lynn. Allergy, strawberries. Favorite show, Blue Wa. Kindergarten teacher, Ms. Harris. Bedtime, 8:15. Birthday, Sept 14. I stared at the screen. It read like a cheat sheet. Like Dean was preparing for a test on a child I'd never met. I took screenshots. All of it. And I did what I told myself I'd never do. I drove to the Fountains townhomes. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Proof, closure, a goddamn nervous breakdown. It was late, lights were out, except for Unit 206. Warm light, a flickering TV. A silhouette of a woman folding laundry while a tiny figure bounced behind her on the couch. I couldn't see their faces. But I didn't need to. Because just then, a door creaked open, and Dean stepped out onto the porch. Wearing the same hoodie he'd left our house in. He leaned against the railing like he belonged there. Like this was normal. Like he lived there. I ducked. Heart pounding. He didn't see me, but I saw enough. He kissed the woman on the temple casually. Then he scooped up the kid and spun her around like some Disney dad fantasy. I drove home without breathing. I wanted to scream. To smash something. But Max was asleep. And Dean came home 45 minutes later with Ben and Jerry's and a forced apology about long meetings. I asked how the Fountains were. He froze. Then lied. I was delivering a gift for a client. I nodded. then handed him the original DNA test I dug out from under my socks. He blinked. "What's this?" "You tell me." He read the name, the result. And then he laughed. "This isn't real." I said nothing. He dropped it on the counter, walked out of the room, and didn't come back for 2 hours. When he did, he acted like nothing happened. But I wasn't done. Because if Dean had secrets, so did I. I sent the screenshots to an anonymous Reddit account. I uploaded the Find My Family location log. I even posted a photo of the 2 DNA envelopes side by side with the caption, "One of these proves I'm not crazy. The other proves he is." Within an hour, it went viral. By morning, I had 800 DMs. But only one mattered. From a woman named Bridget. "Hey, I think we need to talk." "That little girl. Harper. She's my daughter. And your husband isn't just cheating. He's been living a second life." I called Bridget from the garage, engine off, phone on speaker, notebook in my lap like I was taking a deposition. She answered on the first ring. "Hi, it's you, right? The Reddit post." Her voice was cautious, worn out. She didn't sound like a woman about to scream at me. She sounded like a woman who'd already screamed too many times and was finally too tired to be angry. "Yes," I said, "I'm Emily." And then she whispered, "He told me you were dead." Bridget met Dean 4 years ago. At a conference, he gave her a fake last name and said he was a widower raising his son alone. A single dad story with a dash of tragedy and just enough mystery to sound romantic. "He never showed me pictures of you," she said. "He said it was too painful." I closed my eyes. He moved in after 6 months, said he was finally ready to start over. He even asked me to keep his job info private. He said his former in-laws were harassing him. "He had a toothbrush in my bathroom at that time," I said flatly. Bridget made a choked sound. "He told Harper you were her guardian angel." According to Bridget, Dean split his time between us with military precision. Weekdays were work travel. He used separate phone numbers, emails, bank accounts. 2 lives. 2 households. 2 families. "Except," she said, "I think it's more than that." "What do you mean?" "I found something 2 days ago. I didn't know what it meant until I saw your post." She sent me a photo. It was a screenshot of her shared iPad screen, a partially typed note from Dean's Apple Notes. "If she finds out, make it look like a glitch. Gaslight, redirect, reframe as anxiety. Worst case, she breaks. Better than exposure." My hands went numb. He had instructions for manipulating us. Script. Damage control plans. He didn't just lie, he rehearsed it. Bridget and I decided to meet. Neutral ground. A Denny's off the freeway, 2 towns over. She walked in looking like a ghost version of me, same height, same hair color, even the same trench coat, except hers had a juice box stain on the sleeve. We sat in silence for a full minute. Then she pulled a manila envelope from her tote. It looked exactly like the one I found behind the toaster. "Another DNA test?" I asked. "No, it's worse." She slid it across. Inside was a stack of printed emails. All between Dean and someone named Amelia. Subject lines like, "Pickup time for Leela. Still meeting at the cabin. Do you still want out?" I scanned the timestamps. They overlapped with both my anniversaries and Bridget's holidays. We weren't 2 lives. We were 3. And Amelia. Amelia was already gone. In one thread, she wrote, "I'm done covering for you. If you don't come clean, I will." The final email was 1 line. "You forget I know your real name." Bridget and I stared at each other. I finally said, "How did you find all this?" He left his iPad unlocked. He was in the shower. And now, he thinks I don't know. I opened my phone. Checked the location sharing app. Dean's dot blinked in real time at a storage unit. Of course. Of fucking course. We drove there together. Unit 157. Bridget parked behind the building. I went in first. The manager was half asleep, barely looked up from his computer. Just grabbing a tote, I chirped, holding up a random key fob from my purse. Husband forgot his golf stuff. He waved me through. Unit 157 was already unlocked. Inside were 2 suitcases. One labeled Max. One labeled Harper. And a third, unlabeled. I opened it. Inside, photos. Dozens of printed Polaroids. Each one a different woman. Each one taken in front of the same mirror. Same pose, same kiss on the cheek, same caption scrawled on the back. For my twin flame. Bridget stepped forward. That's my bedroom. I pulled out another. That's mine. And then we found the last Polaroid. It wasn't labeled. But it was of Dean. In a hospital gown. Lying beside a newborn baby. Smiling. A woman cropped out, except for the edge of her wrist. And a tattoo. Of a flame. Wrapped around a DNA helix. I looked at Bridget. Do you have a tattoo? No. Me either. So who the hell was this? We left in silence. I thought about going straight to the police, or the media, or just torching the damn place and letting karma decide. But something stopped me. Bridget broke the silence first. I think he's ramping up to disappear. What do you mean? I found a folder on his laptop. It's encrypted, but the file name says Final Cycle. Final Cycle. As if we were steps. And someone or something was next. Just then my phone buzzed. A push alert from Find My Family. Dean just shared his location with. At Twin Flame Resurrected. My throat closed. Because that wasn't a name. It was a fucking handle. He'd made a new account. New platform. New target. And he wasn't hiding anymore. He was inviting her in. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. I stared at that username, at Twin Flame Resurrected, like it was a Ouija board spelling out a curse. Dean was always obsessed with language, with framing things just right, and now, instead of lying, he was broadcasting. By morning, the handle had been deleted. But the damage was done. Bridget and I cross-referenced everything we could find. Reverse image searches, phone numbers from the Amelia emails, anything that might tell us who the resurrected twin flame actually was. That's when Bridget said quietly, "What if she's the first one?" I blinked. The first what? The first woman he ever did this to. I didn't answer. Because deep down I already knew this wasn't an affair. This was a system. I told Dean I was taking Max to my sister for the weekend. He didn't argue, barely looked up from his laptop. That Friday I left the house, but circled back 30 minutes later, parked 3 houses down, and waited. At exactly 7:08 p.m., Dean left with a gym bag. Not to the gym. To Amelia's address, which Bridget had confirmed from a shared utility bill. I waited until he was inside. Then I walked around the back, climbed the fire escape like a feral ex-wife in a Lifetime movie, and pressed my ear to the glass. Voices. 2 women, 1 man. Laughter. A wine cork. I peered through the blinds, and my blood went cold. Because Dean wasn't just visiting. He was hosting. Bridget sat at the kitchen counter, laughing with a woman I assumed was Amelia. Dean poured wine like this was a fucking dinner party. And that's when I realized the truth. They weren't his victims, not anymore. They were his accomplices. I don't remember how I got home. Just that the living room was dark, the dog was whining, and Max had drawn something and left it on the coffee table. A crayon picture, his family. Mom, Dad, Max. And another woman. Long brown hair, blue dress, standing next to Dad. Labeled in shaky 5-year-old letters. Ms. A. I flipped the page. On the back, in smaller writing. She says she's my real mommy now. I dropped it. Backed away. And then I saw the envelope. Sitting on the couch like it had always belonged there. Unopened. Manila. Same shape, same seal. My name handwritten on the front. Just 4 words. Open when you know. I ripped it open. Inside, a USB drive. And a note. In Dean's handwriting. There's no point hiding now. You always wanted the truth. Just remember, you asked for it. I plugged it into my laptop. A video file. 1 hour, 38 minutes long. Titled Cycle 0 Mauve. It opened with grainy footage of a hospital room. 2007, a much younger Dean, a woman in labor. Not me. Not Bridget. Not Amelia. Someone else. Screaming, sweating, clutching his hand. He whispered, "You're almost there, twin flame, she's coming, I can feel it." The baby was born. The doctor smiled. Dean didn't. He looked dead behind the eyes. Then the camera cut to another clip. Same man. New woman. New baby. Over and over. 12 women. 12 children. 12 flame tattoos. Different wrists, same design. Same line, repeated at every birth. Welcome back, twin flame. The video ended with a shot of a whiteboard. Handwriting in all caps. A timeline. Dozens of names, arrows, photos of women tacked like a serial killer's vision board. But what stopped me cold? Dead center, circled in red. EMILY equals false start. Below it. Do not recycle, DNA instability. Watch for symptoms. Final trial, September 18. That was in 2 days. I didn't know what to do. Call the cops. They'd call me crazy. Show Bridget. I wasn't sure she'd care. So I did the one thing I hadn't done since this began. I called my mother. Mom had always hated Dean. Too polished, she'd said. Too calm. She once accused him of hypnosis when I moved out after college. I thought she was being dramatic. But now, she picked up on the first ring. I barely got the words, USB and cycle out before she interrupted. Did he give you the DNA results? I froze. What? The ones I mailed you. I was ice, what did they say? She sighed. Honey, Max isn't his son. My ears rang. What do you mean, I never? He knew, Dean knew from the beginning, he confronted me. I begged him not to tell you, he said he'd forgive it, that he wanted a family no matter what. I dropped to my knees. He said something else, she whispered. What? He said, the blood doesn't matter, the soul will find its way back. I failed 12 times already, I'll get it right this time. I whispered, he knew, he always knew. And Mom? Mom said the words I couldn't. He didn't marry you for love. He married you for the next trial. I didn't sleep, again. Not because I couldn't. Because I was scared of what I might dream. Dean always called me his quiet mirror. He said I reflected things without even realizing, things he couldn't face in himself. I thought it was poetic, romantic. Now I know it was code for easily controlled. I stared at Max as he slept. My son. Not Dean's. Which meant the entire premise of our marriage, our family, was fake. But what terrified me more? Max wasn't part of Dean's cycle. And if Dean was ramping up to complete his so-called final trial, that meant Max might be in danger. Or worse, Dean might already be planning to erase him. Like a failed experiment. I started digging. Bridget sent over the decrypted contents of the final cycle folder. Inside were spreadsheets, maps, even contracts. Dean had been renting properties across the country, cabins, trailers, one converted church, and assigning each a woman's name and a phase. AMELIA, integration. BRIDGT, submission. EMILY, correction. Lisa, purge. Then I found the master document. It wasn't called plan. It was called doctrine. 12 pages of twisted psychology, spiritual theory, and ritual instructions. It read like a manifesto written by a cult leader who'd binge-watched Black Mirror and Ancient Aliens at the same time. Highlights: the twin flame must die in one dimension to resurrect in the next. Each failed incarnation reveals flaws in host. Love is not the goal, alignment is. Final trial must be witnessed. Digital crucifixion ensures karmic severance. Digital crucifixion. What the hell was he planning? Then my phone vibrated. A location alert. Dean had turned his shared location back on. But not just for me. For everyone. Bridget, Amelia, Lisa, the entire damn group chat of exes we'd now formed like a trauma sorority. All of us got the ping. He was live. Streaming on Instagram. At a cabin in Joshua Tree. Username, @FinalTwinCycle. And in the background, Max, wearing the same hoodie he'd fallen asleep in the night before. Which meant Dean had taken him. Somehow, quietly, like a ghost, he had taken my son from under my roof while I was wide awake. I screamed. And then I hit the highway. 4 hours later, I pulled up to the cabin. The stream had ended. But the door was ajar. Inside, candles burned on every surface. A circle drawn in chalk on the floor. And Dean, standing in the center, wearing a white linen shirt and a necklace made from what looked like baby teeth. "Where is he?" I shouted. Dean smiled. "I saved him," he said. Before I could charge, Bridget appeared behind me. And Amelia. And Lisa. All of us. All at once. Dean spread his arms wide like a televangelist, greeting his congregation. "You made it," he said. "I was worried you wouldn't." "Where is my son?" I screamed. He nodded toward the corner. There, sitting calmly on a pile of pillows, was Max. Eating a granola bar. Watching an iPad. "Don't worry," Dean said. "He's untouched. He doesn't belong to the cycle." "I know he's not yours," I spat. Dean's smile didn't waver. "Of course he's not," he said. "He's hers." And then he pointed to a locked wooden box in the corner. Bridget moved before I did. She grabbed the lock, twisted it open, and gasped. Inside was a severed braid of dark hair, a small, embroidered baby dress, and a birth certificate. Name, Evelyn Amira. Mother, anonymous. Father, Dean Albrecht. I felt myself sway. Because I'd seen that name before. On the whiteboard in the cycle 0, mauve video. Evelyn equals lost host. And the next line. Return when final host dies. I looked at Dean. "You were never trying to love any of us," I whispered. He nodded solemnly. "You're the vessels." "The what?" He stepped toward me. "You're not the fire, you're the wood." Bridget grabbed a lantern from the shelf. "I swear to God I'll kill you." "No need," Dean whispered. "I've already died once." And then, the air shifted. Max stood up. The lights flickered. And the cabin door slammed shut behind us. The walls began to glow. Not with fire, but with screens. Every surface suddenly alive with images of us. Photos from our phones, videos from our Instagram accounts, even texts we thought we'd deleted. It was all recorded. All playing back. In real time. Dean turned slowly, raised his hands, and said one final sentence. Before the screen behind him revealed something we'd never seen. Us. All 12 women. Together. In the same frame. With Dean in the middle. But it was dated 6 years ago. A photo none of us remembered taking. And in that moment, Bridget whispered, "Oh my God. We were never the wives. We were the patients." Bridget wasn't wrong. We stood frozen in that dim, flickering cabin, watching ourselves laugh beside Dean in a photograph that shouldn't exist. I was wearing a jacket I'd never owned. Amelia had a scar she didn't have now. Lisa's hair was shorter. The photo was wrong, but terrifyingly real. Dated, geotagged, time-stamped. Dean stepped out of the chalk circle, barefoot serene. "You've all been here before," he said calmly. "That's why this is working." I turned to Max. His eyes were wide, his granola bar half-eaten, iPad still in his lap. The screen now showed a carousel of images, our images. Photos from birthdays, holidays, even screenshots of our texts. All tagged, Cycle 13, Observation Phase. That's when Lisa snapped. She lunged at Dean, shoving him back into the chalk circle. "You've been tracking us, recording us." Dean just nodded. "I told you, it's always been about patterns. The twins repeat. the flames restart. I'm not doing this out of malice. Amelia grabbed one of the candles and hurled it toward the wall, igniting a curtain. Then why the fuck are we here? She screamed. Dean looked at us like we were toddlers failing a test. Because you're still resisting. Smoke filled the cabin. Max coughed. I snatched him up and ran toward the door, but it slammed shut again, locked from the outside. Fireproofed, Dean said with pride. Some lessons have to burn their way in. Bridget reached for the locked box again, this time finding something taped under the lid. A key. With a note. Final cycle equals you decide who dies. Amelia read it aloud. What the hell does that mean? Lisa stepped back. Wait, is this like some sick saw shit? You're making us choose. Dean didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a DNA results envelope. Still sealed. Labeled in his handwriting. EM/MA/MF. Cycle verification. Final alignment. My heart stopped. Those were our initials. Emily Morgan. Max Albrecht. Myra Foster, Bridget's real last name. You son of a bitch, Bridget hissed. Dean raised the envelope like it was a relic. I didn't tamper with it, he said softly. I don't need to, you're all connected through him. He pointed at Max, then handed me the envelope. It's time, he said. Open it or leave him behind. I stared at him. You wouldn't hurt him, he's not even yours. Dean tilted his head. Exactly, which makes him a threat. The room spun. Smoke thickened. Flames crept along the baseboards. And Max, sweet Max, whimpered into my neck. Mommy, he whispered, why are there pictures of me on the walls? I opened the envelope. Inside, a single page. A chart, a key. And 3 lines. Emily Morgan equals not biological mother. Dean Albrecht equals not biological father. Myra Foster equals 99.98% maternal match. My knees buckled. Bridget caught me before I fell. Dean whispered, you see now, don't you? Amelia backed away. You switched her baby, you took Max. Dean smiled. I didn't take anyone, I preserved him. Lisa screamed. What the fuck does that even mean? Dean turned toward her, eyes glowing with something not human. It means this. If love can't be born naturally, it must be engineered. He stepped into the flames. Literally. And did not burn. We screamed. All of us. Max began to sob. The chalk circle pulsed. The candles flared white. Dean stood in the fire, untouched. His eyes met mine, and then Bridget. And then he said the words I'll never forget. You were all chosen. Because you carry her pieces. The ceiling cracked. Bridget screamed. WHO, who the hell is her? And Dean whispered. My real twin flame. Evelyn. The one you all replaced. That's when Amelia screamed, I remember her. And the rest of us turned, because so did we. Vague, fuzzy. A girl from a dream, a shadow in old photographs, a lullaby none of us remembered learning but could still hum. Dean's final words before the beams gave way. She's coming back. One of you will bring her. The roof collapsed. Flames swallowed the chalk. Dean vanished. And then, everything went white. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Bridget sat beside me. Max was asleep, holding my hand. I whispered, where is he? Bridget didn't answer. Instead, she handed me her phone. A news headline. Unidentified man found dead in burned Joshua Tree cabin. No other victims identified. The photo showed a scorched structure, ash, a single shoe. And next to it, half melted, the DNA envelope. I sat up. Where are the others? Gone, she said. Amelia ran. Lisa went off grid. And you. She met my eyes. I came back for Max. Why? Bridget's voice broke. Because he's my son. I stared at Bridget, my chest hollowing out. He's yours, I whispered. She nodded slowly. I thought I lost him. Dean told me I miscarried, that I was too unstable, that he recycled the bond. I didn't even know what that meant. I believed him. I clutched Max tighter. He was still asleep, but he was sweating now, murmuring something under his breath. A name. Evelyn. Bridget flinched. I hear her in dreams, she said. Do you? I didn't want to answer, but the truth coiled in my throat like smoke. Yes, I had. Every night since I met Dean. A lullaby, a girl's laugh, a mirror that showed someone else's reflection. Bridget sat down beside us. I think Evelyn's real, she whispered, and I think she's using Max. I wanted to scream that she was insane, that she was traumatized and paranoid, but the words wouldn't come, because deep down, a part of me agreed. Max wasn't behaving like himself. He was still 5, still sweet, but he had moments. Moments where he seemed older than me. Moments where he spoke in riddles. Moments where he drew eyes over and over again, saying they were hers. 2 days later, I got an email. No sender. No subject. Just a video file. I played it alone in the dark, with Max asleep in the other room. The footage was grainy, time-stamped 8 months before Max's birth. A home video, a hospital room. Dean in a white coat. A woman on the table, screaming. And then an infant. Pulled from her body. The woman gasping. Then a nurse's voice, vitals dropping, she's coding. Dean looked at the camera. Smiled. And said, 1 host down, cycle complete. Then he cradled the newborn. Not like a father. Like a collector. The next day, I called Bridget and told her everything. She said she had something to show me too. We met at a safe house she'd arranged through one of the other survivors, Amelia, still off-grid but watching us from afar. Bridget handed me a flash drive. Dean recorded all the cycles, she said. Dozens, hundreds of hours. But why? I asked. Because he didn't just think he was part of some divine karmic loop. He thought he could control it, like code it, predict it. Like an algorithm. Exactly. We plugged it in. Folders opened. Cycle 1, Cycle 2, all the way to Cycle 13. Each with names, photos, recordings. In Cycle 5, I found a video titled, Correction Ritual Emily. My face, my body. Me years ago before I ever met Dean, or thought I hadn't. He'd known me. Long before our first date. He'd chosen me. Like a fucking data point. I started shaking. And then Max walked into the room. He looked at the screen, saw my younger self on it, and said, that was the wrong Emily. My blood froze. Baby, what did you say? Max looked up at me, blinked slowly. He told me in the fire. He said you tried, but you weren't ready. Bridget whispered, it's her. Who? I said, nearly choking. Evelyn, she's using him. Max smiled, soft and sad. It's okay, Mommy. She doesn't hate you. She just needs to finish. Bridget took a step forward. Max, she said gently, do you remember me? He tilted his head, then blinked and whispered, you're her mom. Bridget fell to her knees. Max walked over and hugged her. And then something shifted. His whole body relaxed. The fog in his eyes lifted. And he said, quietly like a prayer, she's gone. For 2 days, Max slept like a rock. No voices. No eyes. No drawings. I thought maybe it was over. Until I got the alert. A shared location glitch. Only this time, it wasn't Dean's name. It was a username at EchoHost 13. And the location, our backyard. I ran outside. Nothing. But Max's tablet was glowing on the table. It was open to a drawing app. And he'd drawn something new. Not eyes. Not fire. But me. Me holding a baby. A girl. With a birthmark on her neck. Same place Bridget had one. Same place I had one. Max walked outside, rubbing his eyes. He saw the drawing. And said, that's her new body. I dropped the tablet. What do you mean? She picked someone, he whispered. She's coming back. I shook him gently. Who did she pick? Max looked up. And in a voice that was too calm, too knowing, too not Max, he said, you, Mommy. She picked you. I didn't scream. I didn't even flinch. I just stood there, staring at my son, no, the child I thought was my son, while he looked at me with eyes that had seen more than any 5-year-old ever should. She picked me, I whispered. Max nodded solemnly, as if we were talking about a school play or a chore chart, not about being possessed by a vengeful, ancient karmic consciousness. Why? Because your body remembers her. She said so. You carried her last time. I took a slow, shaky breath. My hands trembled as I reached for the drawing again. It was me, unmistakably. Hair in a bun, holding a newborn with long eyelashes and a crescent-shaped birthmark on her neck. That same mark I had since birth. That same mark Bridget had. And Lisa and Amelia. We thought it was coincidence, a cosmic wink. But it wasn't a mark, it was a keyhole. And Evelyn had the goddamn key. That night, I didn't sleep. Max slept like a stone, arms flung across the bed, drooling on the pillow. I stared at the ceiling for hours. I didn't know if the woman trying to break through was a memory, a ghost, or something worse, something algorithmic and human-made, like Dean had engineered a karmic virus. But I knew this much. She was trying to reincarnate. And she was using Dean's cycles to find the right vessel. I had been a failed host. Bridget, too. But Max, he was the bridge, the medium, the child whose birth had triggered it all. And now she wanted back in. Through me. By dawn, I had made my decision. I packed 2 bags, one for Max, one for me. I called Bridget. She answered on the first ring. She's not gone, I said. I know. I need to finish this, for Max. Bridget didn't ask what I meant. She just whispered, I'll find you if I have to. I hung up. I didn't leave a note. I drove 6 hours straight into the desert. Same cabin, or what was left of it. Ash, rubble, partially reconstructed now, someone had been trying to rebuild it. Maybe Evelyn, maybe her followers, maybe just the algorithm. It didn't matter. I walked inside and laid Max down in the center of the room, exactly where Dean had stood before. He opened his eyes and said, She's waiting. I know. And then I pulled out the DNA envelope. The original one. Dean had made a copy to show us. But the real one, I'd found it days ago, inside Max's stuffed bear. Sealed. Unopened. With my name. Bridget. Dean's. And one more. Evelyn Myra Albrecht. My hands shook as I opened it. The chart was simple. Brutally so. Emily Morgan equals 50% genetic match. Bridget Foster equals 50% genetic match. Evelyn Albrecht, composite embryo created using both. I dropped it. Dean hadn't impregnated either of us. He had fused us. 2 halves of Evelyn. 1 body. Max was not the host. I was. And Max had just been the bait. The air grew hot. Not physically, spiritually. I felt her before I saw her. A flicker in the mirror. A girl in white, barefoot, standing behind me. She smiled with my lips. I'm ready now, she whispered. And then she stepped forward. Toward my reflection. Toward my eyes. Toward me. And I let her in. The pain was not pain. It was memory. Hundreds of lives, men who built temples to her, women who died giving birth to her, reincarnations gone wrong, Dean in every one of them, a priest, a twin, a lover, a scientist, trying over and over to perfect the ritual. And Evelyn, watching, waiting, inside us all. Until finally, now through me, she finished it. A vessel complete. A mind that didn't resist. I was her. And yet, I was still me. Somehow, I turned to Max. He didn't look afraid. He smiled. She's home, he whispered. And I realized. He meant me. Evelyn wasn't here to destroy me. She was me. She always had been. Just waiting to come home. I left the cabin at sunrise. Max holding my hand. The air smelled new. Cleansed. Like the fire had finally burned out the loop. I didn't know where Bridget was, or Lisa, or Amelia. But I knew the cycle was broken. Because the real Evelyn didn't want revenge. She wanted a name, a face, a life, and I was going to give it to her. As myself. Not a host. Not a victim. Not a flame. Just a mother. With my son. And the quiet. And the truth. Has a dream ever told you the truth before anyone else?